Welcome to this session on the complete neurological sensory examination, part of the StudyNeuro Neuro Lecture Series. Today we will focus on bedside techniques for assessing pain, touch, vibration, proprioception, and higher-order cortical sensory functions, and how these findings help localize lesions across the peripheral nerves, spinal cord, and brain. For more in-depth lectures and updates in clinical neuroscience, follow us at youtube.com/studyneuro. The sensory examination evaluates multiple modalities, starting with peripheral sensations such as pain, temperature, light touch, vibration, and proprioception. We will then explore cortical or higher-order sensory functions, including graphesthesia, stereognosis, two-point discrimination, and sensory extinction. Finally, we'll integrate these findings to interpret patterns of sensory loss and guide clinical localization. By the end of this session, you should be able to identify all major sensory modalities, demonstrate correct bedside examination techniques for each, and interpret the findings to localize lesions accurately. You will also learn to recognize characteristic patterns in peripheral, spinal, and cortical disorders, and integrate sensory assessment with motor testing to form a complete neurological picture. This lecture is designed to emphasize not just how to test each modality, but why each finding matters, helping you connect bedside skills to clinical reasoning in real patients. The sensory examination is a fundamental part of the neurological assessment designed to evaluate the integrity of sensory pathways from the peripheral nerves through the spinal cord and brainstem all the way to the cerebral cortex. Its accuracy depends not only on the examiner's skill, but also on patient cooperation, and it provides crucial clues about the location of neurological lesions. During the exam, various sensory modalities are tested. Pain and temperature are carried by the lateral spinothalamic tract, while crude touch and pressure travel through the anterior spinothalamic tract. Light touch, vibration, and proprioception, awareness of joint position, are transmitted via the dorsal column medial lemniscus system. Finally, cortical sensory functions assess the brain's ability to interpret more complex stimuli, such as recognizing objects by touch or identifying symbols drawn on the skin. A normal sensory examination shows symmetrical perception on both sides, with accurate identification of stimuli according to modality and body region. Asymmetries, distal to proximal gradients, or selective loss of specific modalities can help localize lesions to the peripheral nerves, spinal cord tracts, or cortical areas. Understanding these patterns allows integration with motor and reflex findings to form a complete neurological picture. We begin the sensory examination with pain sensation, as it is the most important protective sensory modality. Pain allows the patient to recognize harmful stimuli and is therefore assessed first. This modality is carried mainly by the lateral spinothalamic tract via A delta and C fibers, which cross within 1 to 2 spinal segments after entering the spinal cord. Pain sensation is tested using a disposable toothpick or neurotip. Needles should be avoided to reduce the risk of injury and infection. Before starting, demonstrate the sensation on a control area so the patient understands what sharp feels like. Then ask the patient to close their eyes. Apply the stimulus lightly, testing distal before proximal, and examine the upper limbs before the lower limbs. Always compare corresponding areas on the right and left sides. After each stimulus, ask the patient, is this sharp or dull? And does it feel the same on both sides? Assessment is performed using a dermatomal approach, covering the head, trunk, upper limbs, and lower limbs. A normal response is clear perception of a sharp sensation, with symmetrical findings and no side-to-side difference. Abnormal patterns help with localization. A distal gradient of sensory loss suggests peripheral neuropathy. Dermatomal loss points to radiculopathy, and hemisensory loss raises concern for a central lesion. Clinically relevant abnormalities include hypalgesia, analgesia, hyperalgesia, and allodynia. Next, we assess temperature sensation, an essential sensory modality that detects thermal stimuli and complements pain perception. Like pain, temperature sensation is carried by the lateral spinal thalamic tract, making it particularly useful for localizing lesions within the spinal cord. Temperature is tested using a cold metal object, such as a tuning fork, or cold and warm water in test tubes. In practice, cold is preferred as it is easier for patients to discriminate and better tolerated. This is because cold receptors are more numerous and located more superficially than warm receptors, making cold sensation more reliable clinically. Before testing, demonstrate the sensation on a control area so the patient knows what to expect. Ask the patient to close their eyes, then apply the stimulus lightly. Test distal before proximal, and always compare corresponding areas on the right and left sides, watching carefully for asymmetry or altered perception. A normal response is consistent and accurate identification of temperature, with symmetrical sensation and no distal proximal gradient. Abnormal patterns help with localization. Dissociated sensory loss, where pain and temperature are affected differently from other modalities, suggests a spinal cord lesion. A distal loss of temperature sensation points toward peripheral neuropathy. Clinically important abnormalities include thermoanesthesia, or loss of temperature perception, and dysesthesia, where temperature is perceived as unpleasant or abnormal. We now assess light touch, which is transmitted mainly through the dorsal column medial lemniscus pathway. Light touch represents a superficial tactile sense and is useful for detecting gross sensory loss, sensory neglect, or cortical deficits. However, it does not replace pain testing, as pain remains the key protective modality. Light touch is tested using cotton wool or tissue paper. Begin by demonstrating the sensation on a control area so the patient knows what to expect. Then ask the patient to close their eyes. Gently stroke the skin, working distal to proximal, and instruct the patient to say yes each time they feel the touch. Always compare corresponding areas on the right and left sides, paying attention to asymmetry or missed stimuli. In a normal examination, light touch is perceived clearly and equally on both sides, with no reduction or asymmetry. Abnormal findings help guide localization. Patchy or focal loss of light touch suggests a peripheral nerve lesion, while hemibody sensory loss points toward a central lesion, such as a cortical or subcortical process. Clinically relevant abnormalities include hyposthesia, meaning reduced light touch sensation, and anesthesia, which is complete loss of light touch. Vibration sensation tests the function of the dorsal column medial lemniscus pathway. This modality is carried by large myelinated A-beta fibers, making it sensitive to early large fiber dysfunction. A 128 Hz tuning fork is used, applied only to bony prominences such as the wrist, elbow, ankle, or knee. The vibration should be held by the handle to avoid damping, and a demonstration on a control area helps orient the patient. The vibrating fork is placed on the bony prominence, and the patient is asked to indicate when the vibration is felt and when it stops. The examiner compares the patient's perception with the vibration felt directly on the fork. Testing proceeds from distal to proximal sites, and corresponding sides are compared for asymmetry. Normally, vibration is perceived clearly, and the patient notices its stop at the same time as the examiner. Distal loss suggests peripheral neuropathy, while unilateral loss points to a dorsal column lesion. Loss of vibration sense is called palästhesia loss, and severe deficits may contribute to sensory ataxia, causing unsteady gait with eyes closed, known as a positive Romberg sign. Vibration testing is a highly sensitive measure of large fiber and dorsal column function and provides valuable information for localizing sensory pathway lesions. Proprioception, or joint position sense, tells us how well a patient can perceive the position and movement of their joints. This sense travels through the dorsal column medial lemniscus pathway and is essential for coordinated movement and balance. To test it, a joint such as a finger or toe is held by its sides to avoid giving clues from tendons or pressure. The movement is first demonstrated with the eyes open, then the patient closes their eyes and the examiner moves the joint randomly up or down. The patient is asked to indicate the direction of movement. Normally, joint movements are identified accurately. Loss of this sense distally may indicate peripheral neuropathy, while more severe impairment can contribute to sensory ataxia. In some cases, involuntary finger or hand movements appear when the eyes are closed, a phenomenon called pseudoathetosis, which points to dorsal column or large fiber dysfunction. Patients may also have a widened or unsteady gait that worsens with eyes closed, reflecting reliance on vision when proprioception is impaired. Cortical sensory functions assess the brain's ability to interpret and integrate sensory information, going beyond the basic perception of touch, vibration, or proprioception. To perform these tests accurately, the patient must have intact peripheral sensation, functioning dorsal columns, and a healthy parietal cortex, particularly the postcentral gyrus and associated cortical areas. Examination involves several higher-order sensory modalities. Graphesthesia tests the ability to recognize writing traced on the skin, while stereognosis evaluates recognition of familiar objects placed in the hand with the eyes closed. Two-point discrimination assesses fine tactile acuity, and sensory extinction checks for the ability to perceive simultaneous bilateral stimuli. During testing, the patient is asked to identify numbers traced on their palm, name objects placed in their hand, distinguish 2 points applied closely to the skin, or report sensations on both sides when touched simultaneously. A normal response is accurate recognition in each modality, with symmetrical perception on both sides. Abnormalities indicate cortical dysfunction rather than peripheral or spinal lesions. For example, difficulty with graphesthesia or stereognosis may reflect parietal lobe injury, while sensory extinction often occurs in contralateral hemisphere lesions, such as after a stroke. These tests provide critical information about higher-order sensory processing, complementing the standard peripheral and dorsal column examinations. Graphesthesia assesses higher cortical sensory processing, specifically function of the parietal lobe. It evaluates the brain's ability to interpret sensory input, not the ability to feel touch itself, so primary sensation must be intact before testing. To examine graphesthesia, the patient is asked to close their eyes. Using a blunt object such as a pen cap or finger, a simple number or letter is traced on the palm. Single digits are used initially to reduce complexity. After each tracing, the patient is asked to identify the symbol, and both hands are tested to allow side-to-side comparison. A normal response is accurate recognition of the traced symbol. When a patient is unable to identify the symbol despite intact pain and touch sensation, this indicates agraphesthesia, pointing to a contralateral parietal lobe lesion. Stereognosis assesses the brain's ability to recognize objects by touch, a higher cortical sensory function mediated by the parietal cortex and somatosensory association areas. Like other cortical sensory tests, it should only be performed after confirming that basic touch sensation is intact. For the examination, the patient is asked to close their eyes. A familiar object, such as a coin, key, or paperclip, is placed in one hand, and the patient is asked to identify it using touch alone. Each hand is tested separately to allow comparison between sides, and unusual objects are avoided to prevent cognitive confusion. A normal response is accurate identification of the object. When a patient cannot recognize the object despite preserved touch sensation, this is termed astereognosis and localizes to a contralateral parietal lobe lesion. However, if touch sensation itself is impaired, the problem lies in primary sensory pathways rather than cortical processing. Two-point discrimination looks at how well the brain can separate closely spaced touch stimuli. It's not just a test of the skin. It reflects how densely an area is innervated and how much space it occupies in the sensory cortex. During the exam, 2 points are applied to the skin at the same time, and the patient is simply asked whether they feel 1 point or 2. The distance between the points is gradually reduced until the patient can no longer reliably tell them apart. Testing both sides and moving from distal to proximal helps reveal subtle asymmetry or length-dependent sensory loss. In healthy individuals, discrimination is sharp at the fingertips and lips, where receptor density is highest, and much less precise over areas like the back or shins. What matters clinically is not memorizing exact numbers, but recognizing when one side performs worse than the other, or when distal sensation is disproportionately impaired. Poor discrimination on one side suggests dysfunction in the contralateral parietal lobe, while a distal gradient points toward peripheral neuropathy. Sensory extinction, also called double simultaneous stimulation, examines attention and sensory integration rather than basic sensation alone. It is particularly sensitive to dysfunction of the parietal lobe, most often the non-dominant hemisphere. To perform the test, the patient is asked to close their eyes. A light stimulus is applied to one side of the body and then the other to confirm that each side is perceived normally on its own. The key step is then applying the stimulus to both sides at the same time and asking the patient to describe where they feel it. This can be done using pinprick or even visual stimuli. A normal response is the perception of both stimuli simultaneously, with symmetrical awareness on each side. Sensory extinction is present when the patient correctly detects unilateral stimulation but fails to report one side during bilateral stimulation. This finding points to a contralateral parietal lobe lesion, classically involving the right parietal cortex, leading to left-sided extinction. Because extinction can be subtle, careful technique and repetition are important. When present, it provides valuable evidence of cortical sensory dysfunction and helps localize lesions that may be missed by routine sensory testing. In summary, the sensory examination is a combination of skilled technique and patient cooperation. A structured approach is essential. Throughout the examination, findings should always be compared side to side and assessed from distal to proximal, as sensory patterns are often more informative than isolated abnormalities. Normal findings are symmetrical and consistent, without focal or length-dependent loss. Most importantly, sensory results must be interpreted in context. Characteristic patterns help localize lesions to the peripheral nerves, spinal cord, brainstem, or cortex, but accurate neurological assessment depends on integrating sensory findings with the motor examination and reflexes. Finally, maintain a respectful bedside manner and always thank the patient at the end of the examination. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Study Neuro for more clear, high-yield neuro content every week. Share your key takeaway below and stay tuned for more neurosurgery made simple.